This isn't the real Caesar's Palace, is it?
What do you mean?
Did Caesar live here?
No.
I didn't think so.
I went to Vegas last weekend. Pretty crazy.
Vegas, baby, Vegas!
Gentlemen, welcome to Las Vegas.
Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet, and we'll go out back. I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
Some guys just can't handle Vegas.
Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here, the Jeff Does Vegas podcast. It is, what is it? It is Tuesday, August the 20th, 2019. Hope everybody's doing well. I hope everything's going okay for you guys. I hope you've been having a wonderful summer so far. I just realized that it had been a very long time since I popped on to do a little video update and get you guys up to speed on everything that's been going on in my life and in the world of the podcast. It's been an eventful summer. It's been an eventful couple of weeks. There's lots of stuff that's been going on, lots of stuff that's been happening. So yeah, I just wanted to take an opportunity to actually pop on and say hello. First off, I want to say a big thanks to everyone that's been downloading and listening to the podcast. The numbers just keep getting better and better and better all the time, which I've said this a bunch of times before, but I really wanted to come on and say it again. I've only been doing this podcast since, I guess, November of 2018. So what's that? 7 months, 8 months? 8 months. Yeah. Math is hard. Anyways, I've been doing the podcast for like 8 months now. And it's, I've told this story before. When I first started doing it, I just wanted, a fun little creative outlet. I always knew I wanted to do a podcast about Las Vegas. It's a city that I'm passionate about. It's a city I enjoy visiting. I've got friends there, people that, some of my best friends, people that I consider to be pretty much family. And I wanted to do this podcast, and they've been super supportive and super helpful. And if not for some of those Vegas family members, I would have a much less interesting podcast. Let's just say that. But in the time that I've been doing this, it just keeps growing. The numbers keep getting bigger. The downloads keep getting higher, which is good. We're up well above 18,000 total downloads now, and each episode is getting 500-600 downloads within the first week. People are going back and checking out past episodes. Social media is doing really, really well. Lots of people are following on Twitter. I'm at that tipping point now where the number of people that are following me on Twitter is almost double the number of people that I'm following, which, is kind of cool. It's kind of a fun little thing to know and to have. So, but of course, none of this would be happening without you guys, the people that are actually taking the time to listen to the podcast and actually download it and sharing with their friends and taking, telling people about it. So I have to say a big thanks to everybody that's been involved with that. Let's see what's been going on. Well, just put out episode number 31 of the podcast, which was my August trip report. It was a busy vacation. Wasn't even really a vacation, lots of stuff going on with this trip. I flew in on Sunday night. I went out for dinner, spent a bit of time with some friends on this trip. This was probably the closest I've come to being almost like a working trip while I was down there. It was quite busy. 3 podcast interviews that I did, which are going to be coming up over the next few weeks. I talked to David Rosen, who's the host of Piecing It Together, which is a movie podcast with a bit of a twist. It's kind of a cool concept. It's not just a straight up movie review podcast, but what David and his co-hosts will do is they'll talk about a movie, but then they'll talk about all the movies that kind of influenced that movie. So, they go off on a bunch of different tangents and such. But anyways, we had a blast. I was able to sit and chat with David and talk about Vegas movies. And we shared some of our own personal favorites and talked about some of the best Vegas movies, some of the worst Vegas movies. That episode is going to be coming up in the next week or so. I spent some time with Jimmy Denning of Tenors of Rock, which was a lot of fun. Went to the Sin City Theater in Planet Hollywood and went backstage and sat with Jimmy and talked about Tenors of Rock and talked about, life in Vegas and what it's been like to make that move from the UK. Tenors of Rock, by the way, probably one of the most underrated shows on the Las Vegas Strip. If you've never had a chance to go and see this show, I would very much recommend that you do. You should be going and seeing Tenors of Rock. It's probably one of the best shows, like I say, one of the most underrated, one of the best shows on the Vegas Strip. So that episode's going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I also had a chance to sit with Ken from Sin Bin podcast, which is a Vegas Golden Knights podcast. It was fun to just sit. Ken and I sat for probably about an hour and a half and just talked hockey. We talked hockey in Vegas. We talked Vegas Golden Knights hockey. We talked, about the first couple of seasons. We talked about the upcoming season. We talked about the tragedy of October 1st of 2017, occurring just 10 days before the Knights played their home opener. So we had that conversation. And so that interview, which was great, we were able to actually record it at the Space, which I've talked at length about in the podcast, and so much so that people are annoyed with it, apparently. We were able to record there anyways. So it was kind of cool to be able to record in their recording studio and sit and do that. So those are our 3 episodes that are going to be coming up over the next, 3 weeks, I guess. I've got a few other things on the back burner. I'm looking at putting together an episode that I want to call Vegas FAQ, which essentially is, I'm going to compile all of the most frequently asked Las Vegas related questions. Questions about, where to stay, where to eat, great places to eat, questions about, what is and what isn't legal in Las Vegas, questions about, money, budgets, things like that. All those questions that you see repeated over and over and over again on various Las Vegas related Facebook pages and such. I'm going to compile them and put them all into one big podcast episode. And as I say, I'm going to call that Vegas FAQ. Something that people have been asking for is an episode about sports gambling and sports betting. That I'm working on a guest to put together and get that within the next month or so. She is yes, I said she is a big time sports gambler. She posts on Twitter every day, talking about stuff that I don't understand. So I want to do basically a sports betting for dummies episode, because when it comes to that stuff, I am a complete and utter novice, a complete and total dummy. It's going to be an episode very similar and in a similar vein as the episode that I did with Heather Ferris from Vegas Aces, way back, like I think episode number 13, something like that, where I talked about trying to learn how to play a table game, which, by the way, I finally did on this last trip. Sat down for a few hands of $5 blackjack at Ellis Island and had a lot of fun. It was a good experience, and it was fun to get that feedback on Twitter from people who were saying, "Oh, you finally sat down and played a table game. Good for you," which was great. So, anyways, it was fun to be able to sit down and do that. So, looking at putting that together as well. Something that I'm kind of wrestling with right now, speaking briefly as I did before about the tragedy of October 1st, the second anniversary of third anniversary. Eesh. Anyway, the anniversary, oh my gosh, of October 1st is coming up. And I'm wrestling with whether or not to do an episode of some sort. It's tough. I mean, obviously it's something that is ingrained in people's memories. It's something that people will pay tribute to on, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Is it something that I really need to do an entire podcast episode about? I don't think I do, but I'm really not sure. I'm gonna kind of maybe figure that out as things get a little bit closer to the day. I'll maybe go back and forth with some people and see if anybody's got some ideas on that. So that's something that I'm working on right now. Also, quick reminder as well, currently have the audience survey up. Thank you to everybody that's taken the time to actually fill out the survey and complete that. If you go to the website at jeffdoesvegas.com and click on the audience survey link, you'll be able to take the survey as well. Tell me what you do and don't like about the show. There are some, I hate to say, intrusive demographic questions on there, but it's really just an opportunity for me to kind of get to know you guys, the listeners of the show, and learn a little bit about you, so that I know who I'm talking to, so that I can kind of tailor the podcast experience to suit the right crowds. I don't want to be talking about nightclubs and pool parties if the people if you guys don't want to hear about nightclubs and pool parties. So that's something that I'm kind of working on. The results have been interesting and eye-opening, and I've taken some of the feedback to heart and made a few little adjustments to the show, which hopefully you've noticed over the last few episodes. And again, as always, if you ever have any feedback or any thoughts or suggestions, even if you've got suggestions for show topics, if there's something that you'd like me to cover on the show, I'd always appreciate reaching out. You can get me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Jeff Does Vegas. And of course, you can also email me as well, jeff@walkernewmedia.com. All right. So I've rambled on for like 12 minutes here, all by my lonesome. So I think what I will do is I will get out of here. Thank you again to everybody that's been downloading and watching and listening. I really do appreciate it. And again, feel free to reach out anytime. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, any way you want to reach out. If you've got questions or you need thoughts or suggestions or ideas on where you can eat, where to stay, what to see, what to do, by all means, feel free to reach out, and I'll do my best to get back at you. All right. Again, jeffdoesvegas.com is the website. You can get all the podcast episodes up there. Please also make sure that you subscribe as well. Would appreciate that. You want to subscribe on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, anywhere else you get your podcast. Subscribe on there so you'll know as soon as new episodes are uploaded. As well, it's also your opportunity to rate and review the podcast. I'd appreciate if you take a few minutes to do that as well. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out today. I really do appreciate it. And in the meantime, have yourself an outstanding rest of whatever until we talk again. Bye, everyone.